All right, so today we're going to be dealing with bleeding control, aka wound management. First things first, we want to get out the way of our body substance isolation precautions. Make sure I have my PPE on, my personal protective equipment. In this case, I'll be just using gloves, but PPE can range from gloves to mask to a face shield, goggles, anything that you might need on the call. Always want to do that first. So now that we have that out the way, for bleeding control and wound management, we have to locate the bleed. In this case, we're going to be dealing with the left humerus bleed. So using my gloved hand, I'm going to go ahead and apply direct pressure right over the wound. In doing so, applying direct pressure, that might in itself be able to stop the bleed. In this case, we're dealing with heavy bleeding, aka an arterial bleed. So direct pressure isn't going to suffice on its own. So that being said, while still maintaining direct pressure, we're going to go ahead and get a tourniquet, slide that over. We want to apply this tourniquet 2 inches above the wound site itself. And again, for an arterial bleed, that's going to be where the blood is spurting out. It's uncontrolled, so we need a tourniquet in this case. Applying direct pressure, I'm going to apply the tourniquet. Get that going. Once we have the tourniquet on and we have the tourniquet applying the pressure, I can now let go with my gloved hand. We're going to tighten up this tourniquet using the notches as such. And we should be able to see that bleeding has stopped. I would then get out my pen and write the time that I applied the tourniquet. Another way to check to make sure that your tourniquet is applied properly is you're going to check for a distal pulse. I'm going to feel this patient's pulse. Once I don't feel a pulse, I know that the tourniquet is on there correctly. So bleeding should be controlled from this standpoint. The next thing you want to do is evaluate your patient, because someone that lost a lot of blood, they could be going through some signs of shock. So shock management, first thing we want to do is place the patient in a position of comfort. Go ahead and get this patient, put them up, make them nice and comfortable. Next thing I want to do is I want to provide a blanket for warmth. Add that in our bag. And of course, we want to apply some high flow O2. I have my oxygen tank over here, attached to my non-rebreather. Make sure this is set on the right one. I'm going to apply some O2. So those are the big three. Next thing we would do, we would load and go. We want to get them to the nearest hospital as soon as possible. While we're in the back of the ambulance, we can also dress this wound. I'll be using a pressure bandage. So just right over this wound, we're going to make it tight and go back and forth in an X orientation. Like that. Once I go over a couple times, leave this here. Straighten it out, and you can even make a little knot over the bleed itself, provide more pressure, as such. Bleeding control.